when I start thinking to myself, maybe I do believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, maybe I do believe in the core tenets of the Christian faith, a lot of the people who are encouraging me on that journey, my Uncle Dan, I talk about our friend Sam in the book, a lot of them were Catholic. And they took me to Catholic churches, and I felt at home there, and eventually I converted.
J.D. Vance talking about his faith journey in his book. Writing a book is almost a rite of passage for anyone as they begin a presidential campaign. First thing you do, lay out your values, your vision going forward. Vance's second book. J.D. Vance chose to make his opening statement for 2028 about finding faith, Catholicism more specifically. Maybe a brilliant political strategy. The Republican ticket made historic gains with Catholics in 2024. Especially when we consider just a few decades ago, a morally compromised Bill Clinton won a comfortable majority of Catholics. But that speaks to how the conservative political landscape itself is shifting. Trump now wins the conservative Catholics. 6 of the 9 Supreme Court justices are Catholic, almost all of the conservative wing. Not to mention more than a third of Trump's second-term cabinet, including potential 2028 challenger Marco Rubio. The church is also seeing a major resurgence among Gen Z, who are embracing the traditional values abandoned by many millennials. In the Reagan era, evangelical Christians came in and reshaped the Republican Party, the moral majority they called themselves. It's quite possible that American Catholics could do the same thing in the coming years. Monsignor Jim Lisante of Our Lady of the Lourdes in Massapequa Park, New York, host of the Personally Speaking podcast and TV show. It's good to see you, Monsignor. Thank you. When you live in D.C., you can become obsessed with narratives and these sort of stories and say, this is so significant, and it turns out it's not actually what's happening. So as you celebrate Mass every Sunday, are you seeing this change?
There's no doubt about it that the Catholic population, not just on Long Island and New York, but throughout the country, has certainly moved away from the Democratic Party because in some ways they view the Democratic Party as having moved away from them. So many of my friends in the parish, for instance, who are registered Democrats will say they're Governor Hugh Carey Democrats or they're the early Kennedy Democrats, but they're not the Democrats of today, and they're put off by some of the issues that the Democratic Party promotes. And on the other hand, they look at some of the issues promoted by the Republicans, or what some people would call the MAGAs, and they say, I'm much more comfortable there, whether it's about immigration and border control, or whether it's about the right to life, and now in New York and many places we're battling assisted suicide. There are so many issues in which the concerns of the Catholic Church and those promoted by the administration are somewhat similar. Now, I know there are people who would argue with me about that. They'd say, no, the administration is so tough, for instance, on the border. But the Catholic Catechism, as you and I have talked about before, Leland, is very clear that nations have the right to control their borders. What we're obligated to do is to be kind to those who are here, even if they're here illegally, and to treat them with dignity and respect.
How do we explain, though, Gen Zers who naturally, as any youth is more idealistic and more optimistic, oftentimes more liberal? What is Gen Z seeing in the Catholic Church?
Well, you know, I think you touched on Vice President Vance. He was on Long Island last week, and I read the book Communion. Here's a man who comes into the power position in his early 30s and is searching for God. I think for many, many young people today, they are saying everything I've been promised that would give my life meaning has not given my life meaning. And maybe there is a deeper spiritual reality I should explore. And, you know, we are a 2,000-year-old church, and we have a lot to say, and I hope a lot of it is based on not just biblical wisdom, but a tradition that's rich and can give people a sense of what's important, whether it's being sensitive to the poor or respecting human life. There are so many things out there that cheapen life, and they're looking for some meaning. I think the church provides that. That's why I think many young people are coming back to the church where I'm pastor here at Our Lady of Lourdes.
Many of young folks. Chris Steyerwald on Saturday night, July 4th, said one of the most significant things I think I've heard in a long time. He said that July 4th, 1776, the laying out, the declaration of what makes America exceptional, is the single most significant moment in human history since the birth of Christ. And you rightly point out that there is the leader of the Catholic Church, then there is the leader of the American government. And J.D. Vance spoke to how to balance those two things. Take a listen.
I do think that some of the things that have come out of the Vatican on the immigration question in particular have been troubling, and ultimately I disagree with it. But I actually like this interplay, Laura, between the Pope, between Christian clergy, and between the administration. We don't always have to agree on these issues, but I think the fact that we're actually having the right conversations, that we're pushing back when we disagree about, how they're, applying a pragmatic principle of immigration policy.
There was a time, right, that everybody worried that John Kennedy was going to answer to the Pope. Is it important for our leaders, president, vice president, senators, whatever it is, to have some deep faith outside of just the Declaration?
I have to tell you that I've never met anyone who is hurt by having a deep and abiding faith, and I think that J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio are evidence that they are profoundly deep thinkers who are asking questions, and they're allowed to ask. The Catholic Church on all these issues we've touched on, Leland, is not saying you must believe this or else you can't be a Catholic. There's lots of room for dialogue, and in the Church we have people who would call themselves extreme left and extreme right. The greatness of the very meaning of the word Catholic is universal. Everybody's invited, everybody's part of the family.
Well, and there is few people who are a better ambassador for those teachings than you, Monsignor Jim Lisante. It's good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Leland. God bless.
Yeah. God bless.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.